Welcome to the latest home league match preview of the 25-26 season here on Stones TV and the Maidstone United podcast, where we look ahead to a visit from newly promoted side that we played last season. It's in the form of Horsham. So a couple of matches in the last week, starting with a deluge, both weather-wise and in terms of goals. A first draw at Worthing against the Stones in the fixtures history. 3-3 it finished on Saturday, Nigel. Hashtag never dull in South.
Yeah, and we say it in our preview that there's always goals in that game.
I don't think it'd be that bloody many though.
Well, yeah, it's just I don't know. We're getting the draws, and you'd say early season draw away at Worthing is not a bad result, but it's the nature of the draws, isn't it? To go up in the 90+ second minute and then go and concede straight from the kickoff.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating, and you can see why George is getting frustrating, because obviously you come out of a game plan, and first half we deserved to be, I thought, 2-0 up. I thought we was controlling the game, and obviously they got that goal right at the end. But again, that's sort of like man management. You can't be giving a free kick, right close to half time like that, can you? Because it just gets their tails up, and it did have the desired effect. And that second half we didn't execute our plans well enough again, and you invite that pressure onto them, but. And then they get that equaliser in the 84th, 85th minute it was recorded as. And then when you get that winner, you think, right, we've finally done something here. We've got that against the run and play. Smash and grab's probably a bit sort of harsh on Maidstone, because obviously, like I said, first half, they was like, on top. But the way that second half went, and the way that the pressure was building, and then to relieve that pressure, and then again, you just can't.
Self-inflicted, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, you're looking at it, and I know you said on commentary that it was a foul on George Fowler, and
from my angle.
Yeah, exactly. But again, you just got to be stronger in those positions, haven't you? Do you know what I mean? You've got to, they are literally throwing everyone forward. So you've got to, from the goalkeeper and from everyone right up the pitch, you've got to be stopping that at the source. You can't be letting that sort of become a one-on-one isolated incident like that. And, Babiola had already had them chances in the, you should have scored those. And, you know what to expect from Razak Coleman de Graaf. You know that he's always going to be up to playing against Maidstone, just because of his former club, and however he feels about that, and he always has good games against us. So none of these things are unexpected, and it's just about being prepared and stopping it. And at the moment, we're just not on that sort of and it happened last season, didn't it? It happened last season, and I'm sure it will come, because it just becomes second nature. But when you've got so many new players, and you're introducing these because we now are making the 5 subs. I mean, last year the rule was in place. Yeah. We never really made the 5 subs, did we? Because we always had Lenny as the goalkeeper, so we was only ever making 4. So, it just, again, it's them trying to pick up the speed of a game, isn't it? The subs are coming on, and they're not really making the impact that you want them to make, because. And I think the speed of the game goes with this multi-ball system as well, because that was part of the tactics that you could use when you was up in a game, to slow the game down, to take a few yards, knowing the referee's going to push you back. But at them times now with the remote, they're just letting it play go, and we're not switched on those situations. And exactly. that's again something that we've got. And it's the same for all teams. We're not the only ones. I mean, you look around the league, and Torquay on Saturday went to Hemel Hempstead and lost. Yeah. So again, that puts the point that we got at Hemel Hempstead on the opening day into perspective.
So many sides you could go through, Nigel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Already. The way the table, we're not looking at it just yet, but it does look daft, from what most people would think it should be looking like. But it was the same for Worthing last season, same for us, Torquay, Dorking. Loads of sides weren't in that top 7 for quite some time. A lot of them spent time on top.
Exactly, and you've got to realise as well, probably not so much Worthing, because we've got that sort of recent rivalry with them. Yeah. But we're coming to Western as well. They've had a double header of Dagenham and us. Yeah. So they're going to be well up for that game, especially after all the sort of antics that went on last year and missing out to us. They were well up for that game. And again, that you mentioned those sides like Torquay and Dagenham and Ebbsfleet. When these clubs are hosted, they're big games. They're going to be up for it.
Yeah.
And it's like we said last season. A lot of these players have got to realise what it is to play for Maidstone United.
Yeah.
The pressure that they've had before in their careers, a lot of them have been in academy football, and they've come out. They've been to clubs around, like local clubs and that. But coming here, and it's the expectation on them is far greater than what they've had before. So it's about them sort of, I want to say manning up, but just having broad shoulders and thinking like we are playing for Maidstone United, and that's what all the pressure that comes with that.
Yeah. Just to mention, I did actually have a chat with Chris Agata, the Worthing manager, after the game, and I did say to him, I had a bit of a giggle about this because it did take me by surprise. I've told you about this already, I think, from memory, that I said, as I said on the commentary and the hot take and everything else, I do believe that Babalola had committed a foul before he scored that equaliser at 3-3, and without skipping a beat, Chris Agata turned to me and said, I hope so, because they'd had 2 or 3 offside goals not given for them this season. So there's an element of things evening themselves out throughout the season, and you think that might be one that potentially got away from Maidstone, one that went back in the win column for Worthing, and these sorts of issues do figure themselves out. It's similar with the penalties, with Maidstone missing the first 3 of this season. And a weird irony to proceedings is the fact that literally 4 months ago to the day, the last penalty that Maidstone scored was actually at Worthing. So all it took to break that duck was to miss the other 3 and then end up going back to Woodside to where Ben Brooks got those last 2. So it's just weird little nuances like that, and the way the season's taken off already. There's always strange things like this are going to happen, but they'll right themselves, they'll correct themselves.
Yeah, you would hope so, wouldn't you?
But again, sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. So a 3-0 defeat at Weston on Tuesday meant the Stones couldn't match the length of the unbeaten start from the title-winning side of 4 years ago, but they could match the result from the last time we played there. The Stones never got going, Nigel. The courageous characteristics aren't there, according to George, and the better side won, and that was their 5th win on the bounce this season too. Your thoughts on the Stones' first defeat of the season?
Looking back in hindsight, you could see it coming, couldn't you? It was one of those that no one was relishing going there on a Tuesday night in the beginning of September.
Drizzly Tuesday night.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not an excuse, is it? I just think I don't know. It's that match day 7. Talk about 13 being the unlucky number, but it was match day 7 last year. 3rd of September, we had the 5-1 defeat at home here to Chelmsford.
Yep.
So yeah, and look how we bounced back from that. And I'm sure we will bounce back. And sometimes, if you can take positives from the game, Carvalho came on and got his first minutes, which we can take as a positive. He did sort of give a start to Josh Redfern, wasn't it, and David Bonderhomer.
Yeah.
So again, obviously not on the right side of the scoreline, but it's their first start of the season. So that's going to give them a little bit of confidence and hopefully some sort of good minutes in their legs. Like I said, you come on as a substitute, and especially in Bonderhomer's case, he came on and conceded that penalty at Torquay, but he wasn't up to the speed of the game. He's got to make that challenge. Obviously, he wasn't up to the speed of the game, and he was just late on it, and he gave away that penalty, and I don't think anyone blamed him for that. But just by giving him that start and giving him that sort of like, he's got things he can work on now. He knows, so if he's going to get more minutes in his legs and into his games, then hopefully you should see an improvement there, because obviously they're all talented players, and like we've said before, George has brought these players in for a reason. So you've got to give them a chance, haven't you, to prove themselves. And and I mean, again, just looking around the league,
a lot of teams.
Ebbsfleet went to Hemel Hempstead and drew, and Dagenham got spanked 5-2 at home. What difference a year makes? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it just shows you, and we've really in our preview shows this time of year. It's not until 10 games when the league settles down, and there's some crazy results in this time of the year, and you see teams at the top of the league that you know, when other teams find their feet and the league settles down, you know, everyone sort of finds their right order. But at the moment, you've got teams like we've played like Tottenham that, you know, are new to the league. They want to prove themselves, and
we beat them, but they've gone and beaten pretty much everybody else, haven't
they? Exactly. So it's just a crazy season. So hopefully, you know, we can get back to onto our own ground on Saturday, and you know, our familiar surroundings, and put in a performance against one of the newly promoted sides.
Yeah, that's where Horsham come into play. So to our promoted opponents and their summer transfer activity, starting with their departures. The highly rated attacking midfielder Joel Daly departed. Strikers Chris Dixon and Daniel Ajakai were not retained, and keeper Will Heater, which might be handy at this time of year potentially, he signed professional terms with Crawley Town. So not too many leaving, Nigel, but some promising players in that quartet there.
You know, players that are leaving and going on to a higher level, you know, you can't begrudge them that, can you? And that's what it's all about at this level that we play in. You know, you want the players to go on and excel at a higher level.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, good luck to Will Heater. You see, Crawley Town do get a lot of lower league players in, don't they? Don't always go to the best of form or treatment, we could say, for some that we've had at our club, for example. But certainly a very well trodden path.
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably comes from Scott Lindsay and Neil Smith. You know, obviously they're locally based, and I think Scott Lindsay lives at Upchurch or somewhere like that. I know he lives in Kent, so you know, he's going to be aware of all these players that are playing at this level, and you know, with there being so many sort of Kent clubs and in that and sort of Sussex clubs in that sort of area, you know, you're going to have scouts that can go out and look at these players.
Yeah, indeed. So in goal for the Hornets, it's Lewis Carey, who re-signed during the summer. He was part of that meanest defence in the Isthmian Premier last season. He has spent time at numerous clubs local to us, both geographically as well as at this level. So Nigel, he's their established number one, and De Paula clearly trusts him to make the jump back up to this level again.
Yeah, like you say, he's been around, hasn't he? I think, was it Aldershot? I think he's been at before, and
Tunbridge and Bromley, a few others, Dorking maybe. It's certainly,
So you know, again, and like we've said as well, especially, you know, which is not just this season, last season. You know, if you're a manager and you've got a promoted club and you've got your number one goalie, you're going to trust them, aren't you? And that's 90% of it. If you can trust your goalie, and you know what they're capable of, you know, you can build your team around that, and you can, you know what to expect from them. So yeah, it's clearly a combination that works well.
Certainly has so far. So in defence, Freddie Hammond joined from the aforementioned Crawley during the summer, while Jake Elliott, Isaac Philpott, Jack Strange, Danny Barker and Harvey Sparks, he is in his 7th season with the Hornets. They all re-signed after also being part of that mean defence with Carey in between the sticks last season. So only one new face at the back there, Nigel. So it's that consistency word once more, and that's what Horsham are looking at again. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, and that's it, isn't it? You know, the consistency's there, and the combinations are there. So why would you change that? You know, you know, that's part of it, isn't it? You know, that sort of, I say, consistency. That's all it's about. You know, and you know, they know how to play in a certain formation. They know how to, you know, maybe change it if you want to bring on an extra defender. And they, you know, having played together, you're not going to get in each other's way, and you know who's going to go for the head. You know, all them little things that make up that game. And you know, we're seeing it. You know, we're talking about our games and reviewing our games. You know, players knowing who to mark and what position to be in when those balls come in, and if you know that your mate, he's got your back, kind of thing, then you know that's, let's say, 80% of it, 90% of it, isn't it? You know, that trust there.
Yeah, exactly that. So in the midfield, Charlie Hester Cook, vice captain James Hammond, and captain Jack Brivio. He's also in his 7th season with the Hornets. They all re-signed for the upcoming season. Montel Aguimang, he's in his 2nd season with Horsham, having spent last season rehabilitating after a leg break that he sustained at Margate at the start of the 23-24 season. Lee Harding re-signed for 25-26 and is another who starts a 7th season with the club. Lucas Rodriguez also committed for another year, but he is yet to feature so far this season. So Nigel, for midfield, see defence, consistency again from last season.
Yeah, exactly. That's where they're at, isn't it, at the moment? That trying a consistency sort of thing. And there's no transfer window in this league, is there?
Yes,
so
exactly.
you can give it that. They had a little bit of an iffy start. I think they were the last team to actually get a point on the board, weren't they, in the National League itself? But since then they've gone on. They beat Torquay last week at home, and certainly their home form has been good.
Which is the mantra you always lead with, isn't
of course
it?
It is.
Home games are
of course it is,
ones.
And them playing on a 3G surface as well. Yeah, you've got players that have been there that length of time. It's just familiar surroundings, isn't it?
Very much so.
Very much familiar, and that's what I was saying. Before we did this preview, coming back, it's our familiar surroundings.
Yeah.
But we've got that new lot of players coming in. So again, it's just about they're having to get up to speed of how we play and how we, because you're going to know how the ball bounces. You're going to know if it goes down in that corner and it holds up better down.
Yeah.
All them little things that you have to learn, but it just becomes second nature to them. So that's where they you'd expect an early season team, newly promoted team, to pick up the majority of their points, and that's proved the case. So
certainly, so far.
Hopefully, them coming to Maidstone. We went down there last year in the trophy, didn't they? But this is the first time they've been here, I think, and since the last game of the Isthmian South, or the Ryman South season, then, wasn't it? So
yes, quite possibly.
Before we got into the playoffs, we had a mathematical chance of beating Dulwich that day, didn't we, to the title if they'd have lost? But as it happened, both teams sort of won convincingly, and but I remember it being a right party atmosphere when they came down that game. But obviously that was over 10 years ago now, so a lot has changed in that time. So for a lot of their all their players, they've got some that have been there for 7 seasons, but for a lot of their players it's a new experience, so hopefully we can capitalise on that.
That's the hope. So to the forwards, and Shamir Fenelon, Reece Miles-Meekums and Ola Ogunwamide were all retained from last season. Gianluca Botti left for other opportunities after being with the club for just over a month this summer, after he joined from Tunbridge Angels. Ex-Stone against the Stones, Greg Luer left Three Bridges and re-signed for the Hornets, having played 9 games at Horsham last season. Winger Leon Gravatar signed on loan from York City after a spell on loan with Chippenham last season. Forward James Roberts signed after leaving Hampton and Richmond in the summer. And finally, experienced forward Rhys Murphy signed after leaving Dorking. So Nigel, if there's one department that's been added to, at least at this club, you can see it's the forward line, and it's a vast amount of experience there, isn't there? Yeah,
there is a lot of experience there, but I say Greg Lowe, we had him here, didn't we, in our National League season under Jay, I think it was, wasn't it? With the back end of that relegation season the first time. I don't think he really got going, but he's kind of forged a career at this level, hasn't he? He's been at Eastbourne Borough in the past, so a lot of Sussex club. I think he came through from Burgess Hill, so it's a club that's local to him, and he's got sort of the league, which is always good. Rhys Murphy, probably a bit of a surprise signing, really. I know he's had he was at his most prolific when he was down at Yeovil, but I think he's a player that sort of relies on his pace a little bit, and as he's got sort of older in years, I don't think it's been as kind to him as it has been the last few years. Been at a lot of injury time, and I think he was at Southend as well and spent a lot of the time out injured. So again, there's that experience there, but he's not had that many games in the last couple of seasons. So it'll be interesting to see how they use him. And then obviously you've got Gravatar, is it, on loan from York City? So again, he's got that experience of being in and around a sort of winning club. Obviously not a starter every week, but but that's why they've sent him out on loan. Sent him out to a local club that's local to him to get that experience, to hopefully go back and to help them in the future.
Yeah, exactly. So So in terms of form, last season Horsham were promoted from the Isthmian Premier as champions after they beat #United 5-1 on the final day when they outscored Billericay Town and were promoted by just 1 goal. Their pre-season fixtures included a home game against fellow Kent side Bromley, 4 wins, 3 draws and a defeat. They scored 17 and conceded 8. They opened at Chelmsford, suffered a late 1-0 loss before trips to Chesham, and Maidenhead saw them draw 0-0 and lose 2-1. So only 1 point and 1 goal on the road at that point. They've already hosted Worthing, losing by the odd goal in 7. They played Torquay and a 2-1 win over last season's second place team. Salisbury last weekend was 1 apiece, and this midweek just gone saw them beat Eastbourne by 2-0. So Nigel, how do you rate their chances this season? Does their start make you think the 20th position is what they're aiming for, or do you think they've got higher aspirations perhaps?
Oh yeah, I think we've said it before, haven't we? Any new team that comes into this league, first and foremost, you've got to aim to stay in the league, you know, and then reassess it around Christmas time, haven't you? I mean, you know, where you are in the league around about that New Year, Christmas time, and with what players you get in. If you you know, you're like 10, 15, 20 points clear of the drop zone or whatever, then you can obviously get players in that's going to develop you going forward into the club. If you've got to get players in that's going to help you avoid a relegation battle, then you recruit accordingly for that, don't you? So yeah, I think the first aim is just to, you know, they've probably broken it down into segments as well. You know, they've looked at the fixtures and, you know, break it down to 10 game segments, and they'll have a points target of where they want to be, and it's just about, you know, how they manage that and how they go about it. Because I think they've got every chance as well as all the other sides that have come up.
I think possibly they might be targeting a point here on Saturday. We've already discussed their away form, only getting the 1 point from the 3 games they've had so far, and the bulk of their points coming at home. So you think they might be, you know, certainly, you know, both sides be wounded animals to an extent. Certainly Maidstone for their 2 away games they've had. Horsham, I think, will have a bit of confidence coming in, but it's just, can they break that spell when it comes to, you know, getting stuff on the road at this level? Exactly
that, and it's all about adjusting, isn't it? And coming away to, you know, that's all right in your own ground, like we've said. You know, they've had that positive result against Torquay, haven't they? But that's their tight, compact ground. They know the layouts of the ground. They know all the little nuances that are there. But, you know, this is what this league's about. Coming to the places like Dagenham, like Torquay, like us. You know, these big grounds with big stands, and, you know, being able to perform in that environment. And, you know, that's we are their first sort of, I wouldn't say test, but it's their first one. You know, they've not had a trip down to Torquay yet, or they haven't played Dagenham yet. So, you know, we're their sort of first sort of experience of National League South kind of thing, a National League South away day. And, you know, it'll just be interesting to see how they perform. Again, obviously coming off the back of our recent results on those 2 away trips, and, you know, you'd expect us to have a response as well. So again, it's like we say, you know, it's just about managing these first 10 games and trying to pick up as many points as you can. And I think both teams are in that same boat at the moment.
I think they are, yeah. So previous matches in their head-to-head, 11 encounters in the last couple of decades, give or take. No encounter since 2013, as you mentioned earlier, before last season's FA Trophy victory for our visitors. Horsham lead the overall head-to-head, 5 wins to 2, and the other 4 draws, all being of a 1-1 scoreline. So Nigel, they gave us a football lesson last season. Hopefully the boys in black and amber have learnt quickly since then.
Yeah, and I'm sure they will. I mean, that it was an FA Trophy game that day, and we did rotate the squad, and I don't think we ever got going in the game, and we lost out. But, you know, as it proved throughout the rest of the season, you know, we did then focus on the league, and we did go so close in that playoff final, didn't we?
So remember, if you can't make it to the game on Saturday, be sure to tune in to Fred and Joe from 2:40 on Stones Live. You'll see them on the hot take and then hear them on the highlights once they go online. And also a reminder of Maidstone United Women's first competitive match of their season. They're away at Oxted and District in the FA Cup with a 2 p.m. kick-off this coming Sunday. More details on the socials and the club website. Well, last season the Stones played their one and only FA Trophy game of the season down in West Sussex, and the Stones came up short against their then lower league opponents. Come Saturday, they start off in the same division and both will be looking for the same thing, 3 precious points. We look forward to welcoming the Hornets to the Gallagher and hope there won't be a sting in the tail like last time out. Had to be done. Sorry, not sorry. Our thanks to you all out there as ever for watching or listening to the latest preview. Like and subscribe on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast, just search for the Maidstone United podcast. See or hear you for our next preview ahead of the men's first FA Cup game of this season, away somewhere and somewhen to Folkestone. And as always,
Come on, you Stones!